welcome back to the channel. Now, if you keep up with the channel, you'll know I've not given you anything to really get your teeth into the last week or so. That is just life getting in the way, I'm afraid, and it really is. We're opening up at the Falconry Centre to the public again at Easter. I know that's a few weeks away, but we have a lot to do to get everything from that winter dreary close down period to looking sharp and crisp and spot on. So lots to do, lots of work to do with Raptor Exotics. It's not lack of ideas. This is absolutely full. I lay awake at night thinking of literally some of the stuff I'm going to say on videos that are probably going to be weeks or months away. There's so much stuff I want to impart to you guys, entertain you, just help people. Massive list of ideas, and this one's out of the blue. So I do get people comment on the channel. I do get messages and emails saying, Dave, thanks a lot for doing a video about this. It's really helped my falconry in this way. Instagram, TikTok, that sort of thing, I don't do very often. Now and again, I'll put something on Instagram. I got a message from a guy called Evan, a Texan lad, out in the United States. Wow. Oh, what a place. What a place. I'll tell you why. I'm not just into birds of prey. You guys know I love my animals and I love my reptiles. Evan flew his first Harris hawk this year. Now, I've mentored a couple of people this year, as you know, on the channel. They've done okay. They've done very well, considering the lack of game here. So what's so special about a guy out on a Texas ranch flying a Harris hawk as his first bird? What can I tell you apart from how he flies in the sunshine and it's nice and dry, and we're here in the wet and cold flying our Harris hawks? What can I tell you different? Well, this is what really fascinated me. He said, Dave, your Harris hawk set of videos really helped me train my first Harris hawk. Great. Lots of views. I'm sure that helped a lot of people. The difference is, Evan's in the States, full-on licensing system. Critically, that means something we can't do in the UK. They can also be licensed to trap certain birds to fly for falconry. I'm sure you guys know they're only allowed, I'm sure, to trap passage birds, birds in their first year of life, in their juvenile plumage. What a great way to work with birds of prey. Now, there's people that might watch this not knowing falconry and think, we don't need to trap them from the wild. That's cruel. We breed them in captivity. Why should we take wild birds? They trap first season birds. On average, about 80% of wild raptors probably die in their first year. And out of the ones that die, probably 80% die of starvation. Tough winters for your first winter is so hard. But if a human traps you, tames you enough, mans you, gets you used to his world, her world, and flies you for falconry, you get something none of your siblings get. You get fed every single day, whether you can catch stuff or not. You get a massive leg up. You get fed even when you fail. You get to be strong. You get to be fit. You get fed. You get way more time to hone your killing skills, your hunting prowess. And then, often, you're released in the spring. On you go, having been helped and have your handle, your talons held through your first crucial winter, when you have so much to learn and there's so little food about. Evan got to trap under license a wild Harris hawk, and I found that so fascinating. Worse still, I don't watch a lot of telly that people say, oh, have you watched that series? I don't really do box sets. I don't get time for all this. So people kept banging on about watching Yellowstone. Not in Texas, but bits of it are. And in the end, my wife said, oh, everyone's saying that we ought to watch Yellowstone. It's about 18,000 series in. Let's watch it. We kind of binge watched it over a few weeks. Now, what struck me was just the beautiful scenery in the States. So that's fresh in my mind. I've got a fantastic guy out hunting with a wild trapped Harris hawk with his family, showing me loads of footage, sending the footage which you're going to be party to. How fantastic that someone else has took time to share on this channel. But no, he then starts sending me videos of rattlesnakes dancing in the spring, Texas indigo snakes, ruddy great bull snakes, stuff that I'm passionate about. Now he's showing it. Listen, I really, if I'd have had the money, which I don't have, I think I'd have jumped on a plane and said to Evan, I'm going to stay nearby. I want to spend a few days out in your countryside on your ranch. What a place to be. What really fascinated me, guys, is the Harris hawk in Britain is almost now a domestic animal. like the corn snake and the bearded dragon. Most of them are so far removed from the wild over generations of captive breeding. This is a wild bird. And I always say, I remember going out with people in their Harrisawks back in the early 90s. And I definitely remember some lady had one that was well over 2.5 pound hunting weight. It was a monstrous female Harrisawk. I will say the trouble is now, unlike the budgie breeders that bred budgies bigger because they preferred them for the show circuit, birds of prey, we have this awful habit of just breeding them. Oh, have you got a male? Yeah, I've got a female. Stick them together, see what they do. No line breeding of any sort. No breeding from localities. If you're in the reptile industry or market, there's a big thing for keeping stuff pure. Keeping snakes that might come from North America, just breeding the locality groups together. Keeping the exact specific subspecies and locality colours and morphs. We don't do that here. We don't know where our Harrisawks originated. Now they're just Harrisawks domestically bred in captivity. And I thought, what's going to fascinate me? The first thing I said to Evan was, what's his flying weight? How big are those jackrabbits? Because they look big, but I don't know if they're as big as our hares. And that bird looks big. Well, I was shocked at this bird's flying weight, but more on that in a minute. Evan's agreed if I fire him some questions, he'll film some clips, a bit of conversational, but we neither of us have time to have a full-on, whatever it's called, FaceTime that we're going to record. I'm going to fire some questions to him. I'm going to use this footage at the end, overlay it, I don't know, but I've got so much footage of this gorgeous Harrisawk that I think is a fascinating thing to study that we just don't really get to do here. There's plenty of wild ones in the UK, but they're not the same, are they? I'm going to ask him some questions. We're going to listen to what he says, and I hope you find this as interesting and just beautiful landscape and different scenery than the UK or wherever you are. Enjoy it, study it. Wait until you hear those flying weights. Hi Evan and family, I've finally caught up with you guys, so I'm going to fire some questions to you. I'm going to send you some questions and hopefully you'll send me some answers of your experience flying a wild trapped under license Harrisawk in its natural habitat, which I find absolutely exciting. I've already told everyone on the channel that, listen, with the rattlesnake videos, the indigo snake videos, and the videos you've sent me of you and your family out flying this wonderful hawk, and that landscape, honestly, if I had the means, I'd have told you I was coming over, stopping nearby, and I want to see and take a day out with you flying that bird. How lucky are you? So tell us, Evan, what got you into falconry? Where did this spark come from? Are you a hunter in other ways? Just tell me, how did you get into falconry to the point in your license system you've gone all the way through and trapped a hawk? Tell me, multi-loaded question here, tell me why a Harrisawk, because I'm sure you would have had the opportunity for other stuff. So what got you into falconry? Why did you choose to trap a Harrisawk when you had a choice? That's your first question.
Hey Dave, greetings from South Texas. Just sitting here in the Mew with Spark and just responding to the questions that you sent via video. You know, if you ever find yourself in South Texas, there's always a bunk for you here. As far as what got me into falconry, you know, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, we you know, hunted most of our lives. We live on a whitetail hunting ranch in South Texas, so we spend a lot of time hunting whitetail deer, quail, dove, and wild turkey. Falconry had always been something I was aware of, but never too interested in. Specifically, we kind of just started doing some research about it last spring, and the seed kind of took hold, and we ran from it from there. You know, I still remember being a kid and my dad having a plumber or electrician come out to our house, and we lived out in the country. And I remember him pulling up in his work van and having his passenger seat taken out and a perch installed in his passenger seat with a red-tailed hawk tethered to the perch. And so that always kind of stuck with me. But yeah, we just kind of got off on a tangent and ran with it. And as far as I'm not sure if most of your listeners know the U.S. licensing system, but here you're required to find a sponsor that's willing to take you on under their wing as an apprentice. And that has to be a falconer that's practiced for over 4 years. So you have to find somebody willing to take you on. Then there's a licensing process where you have to take a test, have your facilities inspected by state Fish and Wildlife Services. And then after that, you are issued a temporary license for your first 2 years. And then once you've done enough to prove to your sponsor that you are, a capable enough falconer, then he'll sign off on your general license. And then, as for me, why did I choose a Harris hawk? From my understanding of falconry, you always want to base your bird around your prey base and what you have the most of. And given that, we have a lot of resident wild Harris hawks on my ranch, I assumed that there would be a sufficient game for a Harris hawk to hunt. I had many other options. Could have done a red tail or a kestrel or a Cooper's hawk, or several other varieties. And actually trapping was very difficult. Even though we do have native birds here, it was a lot harder driving around trapping than I had envisioned. I ended up driving over 3,000 miles back and forth until I was able to trap spark. So I was actually the very last day before I gave up, and I was going to drive up to my sponsors to go trap an American kestrel. And so the very last evening of the last day is when I was able to trap spark. So it worked out.
My next question is, thank you for sending in the appreciation for the channel and telling me that you did get some help from the Harris Hawk video set that I've done on here. But also, I found that fascinating as well, Evan, that we're working with totally captive bred, generational captive bred birds here. And it's fantastic for me that some of that, the way we work with them here, translated to a wild trap bird. Now, what a lot of people just will not know in the UK is how different mentally wild trap birds are, even haggard birds, compared to our captive bred, as you might call them, chamber raised birds. So for those that are watching, you might think that a wild trap bird would be much harder and mentally retarded in many ways in our world to work with than a bird bred in captivity. The ironical thing is often the other way around. Our Harris hawks typically will be bred in seclusion aviary here in the UK. They'll be chamber raised in a skylight aviary, so they won't be able to see anything except the sky, their parents and their siblings. And they're likely to stay there for up to 20 weeks. So they can only flap about up and down. And their brain is retarded. It's seen nothing but the sky and its parents. It has to get used to our world quickly. Has to get used to us. Awful lot to see. So they can be quite stressed out to start with a little bit. If you don't employ the hood and you don't know what you're doing, they can be a little bit slower, even a Harris hawk. But of course, your bird has seen the world. By the time you trapped it, can you tell me roughly how old you think it was? But by the time you trapped it, it had seen the world. It might well have seen people and horses, I guess. Rather, you take up a sparrowhawk here in the UK that's been trapped in a warehouse or something. That really nervous parent-reared sparrowhawk that in captivity as a captive bred bird can be very nervous. Mans down and feeds on the glove way quicker than most parent-reared captive raised birds, because again, it's seen all of our world already. So talk us through, as brief as you'd like to, the training process, how you found it, how well did this bird think and switch on, and tell me about the social aspect of it flying with your family. You've sent us these videos and I can see, I don't know how long it's took you, but your Harris hawk totally just treats your family like its pack, its flock, its hunting partnership. You can just see the way it's waiting on, it's working in the desert, in the scrubland. Yeah, it's totally accepted you guys, hasn't it? So just tell us, in a lot briefer way than I've just posed a question, how have you found the manning and then the training of that bird? Cheers.
Yes.
All right, so trapping spark, training spark. Like I alluded to before, the trapping process was much more difficult than I had thought it would be, but we were able to get it done. I was using a ball chow tree trap with a mouse and a gerbil primarily. So when I caught Spark, she was still with her parents. I trapped her in late December. So if she was a spring hatched bird, she would have been somewhere about 9 months old whenever I trapped her. And actually, when I trapped her, she was with one of her adult parents, and I threw the trap, and Spark came to hit it, and she got spooked and pulled out, and so the adult hit it and got stuck. And then Spark came back down trying to swoop at the trap, but didn't want to fully commit. But then she actually hit it and knocked the adult free, and both of them took off. But they still hung around on a tree pretty close by, so I was able to reposition the trap and just wait around another 15 or 20 minutes, and then finally got the courage to come back and hit the trap again. And that's when Spark got stuck. So yeah, she would have been somewhere about 9 months old. So there's another falconer that I know here who's flown Harris Hawks most of his life. And while I was concerned because it was a trapping a bird late in the season for most people, he always told me that those late trapped birds are often some of the best because they've been out hunting on their own more than had they been earlier taken from their family. So he really likes those late trapped birds. And then the training process could not have been any easier, to be honest. It was almost strictly play-by-play from your video series. Obviously, I told you I utilized that pretty heavily for my training process. And as you would like to say, she definitely read the book. Day one off the trap, eating meat from bare fingers. Obviously I didn't do the placing food without me being around because I didn't have to worry about the imprinting on the captive bird aspect. So I fed her, either off my fist initially or just out of my fingers. Extremely gentle. I mean, day one, just letting me touch her all over, feeding her bare fingered. She walked to my glove, down my glove off the perch on day 3, and then was hopping immediately to the glove after that. And we started doing full leash length jumps day 4, and then just kind of progressively went out onto the creance, and just went further from there. And whenever I was watching your videos and hear you complain about the creance, I never quite understood what you meant. And I always thought it wasn't too bad till I started introducing the lure training, and creance is certainly a terrible piece of equipment. But no, training went super smooth. Honestly, she was probably ready to fly free 12 days, 13 days, something like that. I wasn't ready to turn her loose at that point. So her slowest reaction was to the lure. It took a little bit longer to get her wedded to the lure than I expected. So I kind of kept her on the creance, working on really getting her to focus on the lure and lure recall. And so we flew her free for the first time at 19 days, mainly weather dependent. We had a big cold front that came through that just kind of derailed it a little bit. But yeah, so we were flying free at 19 days in her training process. And as far as socializing with my family, my kids are always around. We homeschool our kids. So honestly, from the first day that I brought her home off the trap, the kids were always around. Dog was always around. When we would do creance training or call-offs, she was always around. My wife and I would do back and forth calls on the creance, glove to glove. My daughter would call her to the glove. So she was just always been around us. The first times we did some baggy quail hunts, my kids were all in the vicinity. So really from day one, she's been exposed to all of us. So she didn't really have a choice of whether or not she was going to socialize with the family. She just had that forced upon her. So, there's days that we'll take walks around my house, walk out our front door, and it'll be me and my kids and our dog. We have 2 barn cats, and then some of our horses will join in. So, yeah, I often chuckle at the motley crew that she's been forced in to take as her family. But to her credit, she has completely joined with us and become a really welcome part of the family.
Real quickly then, tell me about the hunting. How quickly did it learn to hold game long enough for you to get there? Those jackrabbits look big, so can you tell me what they weigh? You have already told me, but can you tell us what they weigh to give us some idea compared to, a 3 to 4 kilo brown hare in the UK? what do they weigh? But how long did it take that bird to learn to hunt for you? It's obviously been hunting before. It's a wild trap passage bird. But I imagine it hasn't taken a lot of jackrabbits, fully grown jackrabbits on its own. Big quarry maybe. How quickly did this bird learn to sort of hunt in partnership with you? Tell us about that. And of course, after that, tell us the weights of those jackrabbits. Tell me how much she weighs. We've already ascertained in a conversation that she's a female. Tell us what her hunting weight is, because I was shocked. It went against everything I thought. So let me know that as well. And I've got one more question for you.
All right, weights, hunting. So I know you were surprised, but yeah, Spark off the trap, well, without any gear, was 778 grams. So, with her gear on and everything, her trap weight was in about the 840s. And so she's kind of either on the freakishly high on the male spectrum, or a small female for down here. Because typically, after talking with other falconers and Texas Parks and Wildlife biologists, the males here tend to be in the 500 gram range, really with 600 kind of being the top end for a male bird. So she's almost certainly a female, or could possibly be a huge male, but most likely is in the female range. She has really been an easy bird to work with, because her trap weight is about 840. But I've flown her and whenever I was doing the manning process and training process, I flew her all over the place, and I've flown her all over free flying as well. And so I've flown her from 817 grams up to almost 870 grams. And her behavior has never changed once. So she's very, very flexible in that respect. Hunting, yeah, obviously she was, out and about killing stuff before I picked her up, so I didn't have to give her too much of a lesson. Surprisingly, my sponsor's Harris Hockey had a small male. His loved birds, small birds, grasshoppers, things like that. Spark has shown no interest whatsoever in small birds. She is triggered by quail, cottontails, jackrabbits. I've really tried to set up some duck slips for her, but I haven't had a whole lot of success there. We've had a little bit of chases on some other larger birds. But as far as kills, so far we've been with mice, cottontails, jackrabbits, and quail. But no, one thing that I was surprised that we struggled with here, as I said, we live on a hunting ranch, on a fair amount of acreage, so I had assumed that finding game was going to be extremely easy, but it certainly didn't turn out to be the case, and it took a little while before we got our first kill once we were flying free. But you could tell from the get-go that she understood the partnership, and she was really dialed in. I was worried that it was taking too long and she was going to start getting bored. But she stuck with it, and she really understood the partnership really from the get-go, and you could tell. The jackrabbit, the first one that we killed was, Spark, I flew her at 850 grams that day, and that jackrabbit was 2,550 grams. So, a little over 3 times her size, so it was pretty impressive. And no, I didn't take any time at all. The first time we ever saw a cottontail, or the first time we ever saw that jackrabbit, were both kills immediately. There was no hesitation whatsoever. The first jackrabbit, it was a little bit more of a rodeo. She hit the jackrabbit as after I had cut off the jackrabbit and flushed it back through some brush, and I could just hear her and the rabbit, so I took off running, and she was latched onto its back, getting drug all over the place. It probably drug her at least 20, 30 yards before I got there to help her. And I don't know if it was learning or better success or just luck, but the next jackrabbit that we took, and she hammered that thing. She had it pinned down hard. So I don't know if she just learned from the first get-go or what, but the second one was a lot cleaner of a take. But yeah, hunting just kind of meshed in very, very easily with her. Didn't have to do a whole lot.
Okay, the big question. You might have made your mind up already. Oh, Evan, broke my heart. Our recent correspondence. Watching this bird work with you, it is just a perfect partnership. It is so relaxed with you in this falconry partnership. It's done so well for you. Your first bird, for goodness sake, as well. Amazing. And then you drop the bombshell. You don't know whether you're going to release her, now it's spring, or keep her to fly for another year. You told me you can keep her legally, which is within your remit, but you've told me your mentorship scheme means you've got to be, to get to the right level, you've got to be able to trap 2 different species, I believe, and train them. So the likelihood is, you told me, she's probably going to go free in the spring, and next fall, you're going to trap a new bird. What are you going to do? Oh, send her over here, Evan. What are you going to do? I couldn't make that decision. Wow, both of those decisions, either way, it's just perfect, isn't it? What's your plan for next winter? Tell us what you're going to do.
All right, then, as far as what to do with Spark, yeah, that's the tough question right now. I mean, for me, getting into falconry, I appreciated the conservation aspect here, at least in the United States, taking wild birds and trapping them, working with them, getting them hunting, providing medical care, giving them a good, firm, healthy foundation to take back off out of. I like that aspect of it, of protecting the raptors and turning them back loose in peak condition and giving them the best chance to survive. Because here, 80% of raptors that are born each year will not make it to year 1. So I appreciate the conservation aspect and trying to release a healthy bird back in the wild. And legally, yes, you're allowed to keep wild raptors. Many people do and hunt with them for many seasons. Many people say, second season on, you're highly more productive than first season. And many other falconers have told me that Spark's a pretty rare bird with the success she's had hunting and just how well she's behaved and her acclimation to the family and everything like that. But my sponsor, so one of his conditions, well, he had 3 conditions whenever he took me on as an apprentice, and 1 was to keep a falconry journal, 2 was to fly telemetry, and 3 was to fly 2 different species, 1 for each of my years of apprenticeship. And so that was his conditions that I took on. Spark has certainly made it very difficult because she's been a fantastic bird, an amazing first bird just from her personality and how gentle she's been and the success we've had and the fact that my whole family can participate with it. So she's been a great bird, so it's going to be tough to let her go. I haven't fully made up my mind yet. I'm trying to see if I can figure out some way with my sponsor to maybe keep her around. There's some other avenues we could take as far as transferring her to somebody else for a season or something like that. But we're still working on that. Haven't made a final decision. But either way, it'll be very interesting for me to, if I do turn her loose, how long she kind of stays around my house. I was talking with another falconer the other day who's talking about a guy that had a merlin, and he turned it loose over by his house, and it hung around for a month. He would go outside, they would just go out for a walk, go for a hunt like they always did, and then the merlin would take off and do its thing, and the next morning the merlin would be waiting there. So I kind of have a feeling that Spark will be the same way, hanging around. I mean, like I said, we've got a lot of resident Harris hawks here, so I'm sure she'll probably be able to pick up a family group pretty easily. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if she hangs around, but final decisions haven't been made on that yet, and we'll just have to see.
Thank you so much for giving me the video footage, giving me your time, sending me those snake videos. Just brilliant. What a great reach out to this channel. Absolutely enthralled me. I'm going to come and see you one day.
kid.